Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Short video, ladies and gentlemen. This is just something that we need to talk about and people need to be made aware of. So do you remember Event 201? If you don't, just type it in, Event 201, and go DuckDuckGo. And it'll show you that there was a simulation of a bug crisis going on in the year 2019, October 18th. And then what happened just a few months after that? The mess that we find ourselves in now, ladies and gentlemen, with this health crisis began. So now we have the IMF and World Bank, along with about 10 other countries, who are holding simulations of a global financial system collapse. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, that these people, they play games with us. They let us know what's going on, but you have to read in between the lines. People were talking about Event 201 back in 2019, but not many people were listening. And this here is something that not only myself, but renowned economists have been talking about, that there is going to be a financial collapse like no other. I see a worldwide financial or economic collapse, whatever you want to call it, as something that is very viable and as a tool that the state will use in order to control us even further. IMF, World Bank, and 10 countries held alarming simulation of global financial system collapse. Earlier this month, Reuters produced a report which didn't receive nearly enough attention among the American public. Everything that you hear is about this health crisis going on, or the other variations of this health crisis, and how this song of a health crisis is never going to end. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that think that this health crisis is going to end, think about the trillions of dollars that companies are making off of this very health crisis, off of the policies that are being enacted by governments due to this supposed health crisis. Do you think they're going to give up those trillions of dollars very easily? Now, this health crisis is now a $1 trillion industry. Do you think they're going to let that go very easily? They continue to say that its content would be sure to alarm most people concerned with the outbreak of yet more global catastrophes. At the very least, it's curious timing. Powerful nations and banking institutions decided to get together to run a global economic collapse scenario. Now, why, ladies and gentlemen, if everything is going so well, as you hear said by the mainstream pundits and by politicians in the White House, if things are going so well, why are they running a scenario as to what would occur if there was a worldwide economic collapse? I just wonder. The report described that Israel led a 10-country simulation of a major cyber attack on the global financial system in an attempt to increase cooperation that could help to minimize any potential damage to financial markets and banks. It was centered on a catastrophic scenario in which hackers were 10 steps ahead of us, according to one official who took part. Dubbed Collective Strength, the exercise was held in Jerusalem after being moved from the original proposed location of Dubai, and included the participation of also the United States, UK, UAE, Austria, Switzerland, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, and Thailand. Officials from the International Monetary Fund, or the IMF, the World Bank, and Bank of International Settlements, BIS, were also involved. The financial geopolitical gaming situation was set amid a scenario where sensitive data was leaked on the dark web, resulting in the collapse of global markets and an ensuing run on the banks. Further, the simulation envisioned a series of devastating hacks targeting global foreign exchange systems, which also disrupted transactions between importers and exporters, according to Reuters. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what have we talked about here for months, if not for over a year now? Make sure that you get out of the system as much as you can. That's what prepping is about. Prepping is about having a backup to all of those infrastructures that you depend on. And one of those infrastructures that you depend on is also the banking system. And this is why they have to put all the pieces together now. That way they can try to frighten and scare the public and hopefully be able to control them when they go through with this and then put through a new system that would make them even stronger. The simulation set out a severe crisis period lasting about a week and a half. Events were guided by a film and narrator which related to the fast-moving live events. These events are creating havoc in the financial market, said a narrator of the film. The banks are appealing for emergency liquidity assistance in a multitude of currencies to put a halt to the chaos as counterparties withdraw their funds and limit access to liquidity, leaving the banks in disarray and ruin, the narrator said. The participants discussed multilateral policies to respond to the crisis, including a coordinated bank holiday. Have you heard that word before, ladies and gentlemen? Bank holiday? It's where they shut down the banks and you can't get to your supposed money. They continue to say, ostensibly, what was a successful 10-day exercise was aimed toward each country being prepared to contain the global damage coming from some kind of a major cyber event or threat. And we can go back to that cyber event that we're supposed to be having that was touted by the World Economic Forum. Remember, I forget the name of the guy, Schwab or something like that, or Schwals or something like that. But he said that one of our major threats is a cyber event.
We all know, but still pay insufficient attention to the frightening scenario of a comprehensive cyber attack, which would bring to a complete halt to the power supply, transportation, hospital services, our society as a whole. The COVID-19 crisis would be seen in this respect as a small disturbance in comparison.
Right, a major cyber event. And here they're talking about it again. Ladies and gentlemen, I implore you to get prepared if you're not prepared. Right? I know this is the holiday season, Christmas season, right? My favorite time of the year. But I feel compelled to put out these videos, especially when they become available, when the news becomes available. Because, ladies and gentlemen, usually by the time that we see something like this, it's already in action. The players behind the scenes are already planning it out. Event 201 happened in October of 2019. What happened in February, March of 2020? We all know. All right, ladies and gentlemen, now they're talking about a cyber attack on the world economic system. So just protect yourselves. And this to me confirms that we are closer to that economic catastrophe than what I thought we were. I think that they are going to try to implode the financial system in order to have more control over what we can and cannot buy.
It's going to be the most incredible event that is ever going to happen, has ever happened in the history of the world. That's the truth, because it's going to change the entire financial landscape. And at the same time, we're going to see, there's absolutely no doubt about it, a massive global loss of human life. It's going to coordinate together again. And when this thing bursts, and it's going to, by design too, don't believe it's going to be by accident. I know you're not that naive. When the debt bubble bursts, it's going to change everything on a scale it's going to make anything that came before it, and I mean anything that has come before it, look like nothing. You want to talk about, there'll be empty shelves. They will not be able to be restocked. We'll have a credit freeze, which means you won't be able to have access to any of your cash. ATMs won't work. Bank accounts will be zero, okay, because there's no money in there anyway. Again, you all know about the fractional reserve system, right? You put $1,000 in the bank, only 10% of it is in your account. The rest of it is not there. So, all those digits on the screen, that's all they are. They don't mean a damn thing. And again, with regard to resources, when the debt bubble pops, and it will burst at one point, resources will become unavailable. Just basic necessities will become unavailable. And we are going to see, again, why do you think, for example, they're pushing all this control on us right now. It's a setup for what is coming. They understand what's coming. They need more control, more people to submit to control. Because when this happens, we're going to see martial law around the world. People will be in the streets eating each other. I mean, I can't tell you how big this event is going to be when the debt bubble bursts. Again, imagine people not being able to attain basic resources. We can't borrow anymore. Everything stops. Businesses stop functioning. That's what's going to happen here on a scale that people are not going to believe. It's going to sweep the entire globe. I've explained to all of you that the debt bubble is a financial Frankenstein. It's a monster, and it's going to swallow the earth when it bursts. The Fed is determined to finish their end game. You know that. But be prepared. I mean, the biggest thing you're ever going to witness in your life, and I believe it's going to happen in our lifetime, of course, is the bursting of the debt bubble. It's going to be epic. It's going to be biblical. I don't know another way to put it. Biblical. And none of this is by accident. It's all by design. It's about creating a new demographic, extreme haves, extreme have-nots, a feudal system, and a depopulation event. A depopulation event. Control. That's what this is all about. More lockdowns, talking about lockdowns. China just went into lockdown again. It's all about control. Nothing is what it seems to be, people. But again, there are millions of people surrendering to this thing. And that's what, they knew would happen. But the problem is they've been made afraid. And once they're made afraid of one thing, they're lost. Their minds have been controlled. They become zombies. We're surrounded by zombies. The zombie apocalypse is real. You have to understand that. And the propaganda ministry is making sure it stays in the forefront of people's minds here, distracting them from what they should be paying attention to, which is the debt hyper bubble, which is going to lead to I don't want to say an extinction event, but when that bubble bursts, it's going to wipe out a large percentage of the population of the world because resources would become unavailable. And people are going to go into some kind of survival mode. You understand? It's going to be a moment in history that I really wish we did not have to witness, but we're going to at one particular time. Preparing for what's coming down the pike. Look, I'm not the right guy to be speaking to with regard to what people should be doing, but I do believe people need to be ready for when it does happen, because you always have to have the high ground. Just think of what it would mean for you if all of a sudden, let's say, for example, rates start spiking uncontrollably. The Fed, other central banks try to make up the difference. The currency will evaporate. You're going to see inflation surge. You probably will see hyperinflation. You will see the stock market crater faster than it ever has in history, probably losing 70, 80% of its value. Expect a credit freeze to happen, a complete lockup of the financial system. Funds will become unavailable. Debit cards will not work. Credit cards won't work. Nothing. Stores will be cleaned out with no way to restock the stores. Everything will just stop. What does it mean for you? Because this event is going to happen. It's just a matter of when it's going to happen, because this entire thing is building up to a climax that I'd be willing to bet that 90% of the people, number one, have no idea that's coming. Number two, are not prepared for. And so I want you to be ready for it. All right, people, look, I'm out of here.